Money isn't complicated. People just insist on treating it like a lottery ticket instead of the engine that's supposed to fund their freedom. Fact 1. The compounding obsession. The rich don't chase returns, they chase time. Here's the first secret nobody wealthy ever says out loud. They're obsessed with time, not money. Not in the poetic, time is precious way you see on motivational posters. I mean in the cold, mathematical, this is how you bend reality way. Because once you understand compounding, you stop thinking like a gambler and start thinking like an engineer designing your own future. Rich people don't ask, how much can I make this year? They ask, how long can I keep this machine running? Picture this. The average person invests like they're trying to impress someone, jumping in and out, panicking at dips, celebrating at peaks like toddlers discovering sugar. Meanwhile, the wealthy treat their investments like an engine prototype. Tweak, refine, optimize, and then let it run for decades without emotional interference. That's the difference. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The market doesn't care how smart you think you are. It rewards the person who stays in the longest, not the brave, not the gifted, just the patient. Compounding isn't magic. It's discipline disguised as mathematics, and most people never sit still long enough to let it work. Fact 2. The attention filter. Wealthy people ignore 99% of money noise. Here's the part that frustrates most beginners. Rich people aren't smarter, they're just selectively deaf. They ignore almost everything. Hype cycles, panic headlines, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that show up every 11 minutes. The wealthy operate with a clean internal filter. If it doesn't move the long-term needle, it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, the average investor treats the market like a breaking news channel, refreshing charts, reacting emotionally, trading on fear, chasing whatever trend survived the last 24 hours. That mental chaos is the fastest path to poverty, not because of bad investments, but because of fragmented focus. Wealthy people ask one simple question before making a decision. Will this matter in 10 years? If the answer is no, they don't give it a single neuron of attention. This calm ruthlessness, the ability to stay unmoved while everyone else panics, is what compounds their wealth faster than any asset. The rich don't win because they're genius. They win because they're quiet in a world addicted to noise. Fact 3. The asymmetric move. Wealthy people don't take big risks, just smart ones. Let's get something straight. Rich people don't risk it all. That's a Hollywood fantasy created by screenwriters who think every billionaire made their first million in a back-alley poker game. In reality, wealth is built through asymmetric bets, small downsides, massive upsides. Picture someone buying coffee every morning and feeling guilty about the $5. Meanwhile, a wealthy person invests 5Ks into something with limited downside but potential exponential scale. The math isn't dramatic, it's calculated. They aren't thrill seekers, they're probability architects. Most people think risk is about courage. Wealthy people know risk is about design. They look for moves where, worst case, they lose a little best case. They alter the trajectory of their next 10 years. That's why they invest in skills, ownership, technology, networks, things that can multiply. Not the shiny nonsense that looks cool but dies fast. The rich don't gamble. They engineer outcomes where the upside pays for all the failures combined. Fact 4. The boring money. Principle. Wealthy people get rich doing the same thing repeatedly. Here's a truth most people hate because it destroys their fantasies. Wealth is built through repetition, not excitement. Rich people don't reinvent themselves every 6 months, like someone trying to rebrand their Instagram. They find what works, and then they do it again, and again until everyone else gets bored and assumes it must be luck. The average person craves novelty. The wealthy crave predictability. You'll see someone jump from crypto to dropshipping to stock trading to that new AI thing every time a YouTuber makes a 10-minute hype video. Meanwhile, wealth builders focus on one scalable money engine, a business, a skill, an investment strategy, and they squeeze every ounce of value out of it before even considering a pivot. Consistency is a multiplier. Repetition is leverage. Mastery is the real unfair advantage. And here's the painful irony. The reason the rich seem lucky is because everyone else quit right before compounding would have kicked in. Fact 5. The information advantage. Wealthy people don't know more, they know sooner. People imagine rich investors sitting on secret documents and insider info like they're in some underground villain lair. They're not. Their real power is speed of understanding, not secret access. Here's what actually happens. When new trends emerge, average people wait for permission. Articles, experts, social proof, validation from someone richer than them. Wealthy people, on the other hand, evaluate quickly, decide quickly, and act before the crowd even finishes Googling, "Is this safe?" They don't guess. They learn faster because they read obsessively, surround themselves with people building things, ask better questions, understand patterns instead of headlines. By the time the masses arrive, the wealthy are already choosing their exit strategy. Most people think success comes from intelligence. It doesn't. It comes from the ability to understand opportunity before it becomes obvious. The rich don't have crystal balls. They just don't wait for someone to explain the future to them. Fact 6. The emotional detachment rule. Wealthy people treat money like a tool, not a therapy animal. Here's the part that sounds cold, but explains everything. Wealthy people don't get emotionally attached to money. They don't romanticize it, worship it, or argue with it like it's a stubborn partner. Money is a tool, nothing more, a lever that moves bigger levers. Everyone else treats money like a mood stabilizer. Bad day? Buy something. Good day? Buy something. Stressed? Buy two things. The wealthy don't use money to feel better. They use money to build better. They don't fall in love with their assets. They don't panic sell because a chart dipped 12%. They don't cling to a bad investment out of pride. When something underperforms, they cut it with the same precision they'd use to trim a failing part out of a rocket engine. Emotional discipline is their competitive advantage. Most people lose money not from lack of intelligence, but from lack of emotional regulation. The rich don't feel their way to wealth. They calculate their way to it. Fact 7. The ownership bias. Wealthy people prefer equity over salary. Here's a mindset shift the wealthy learn early. A salary can't make you rich. Ownership can. That's why they prioritize equity, shares, partnerships, royalties, intellectual property, anything that multiplies without them being physically present. Most people want security. Wealthy people want scalability. A paycheck pays you once. Ownership pays you forever. While the average person negotiates for a slightly bigger monthly salary, wealthy people negotiate for a percentage of something that can grow beyond them, because they understand the real engine of wealth is participation in upside, not hourly labor. This is why they invest in businesses, buy real estate, build digital assets, or acquire companies. They're not chasing money, they're chasing systems that print money. If you want to think like the rich, stop asking, "How do I earn more per hour?" Start asking, "How do I earn without being there?" Fact 8. The cash flow discipline. Wealthy people respect boring income. More than flashy wins, the poor crave jackpots. The middle class craves raises. The wealthy crave reliable cash flow. That's why they love unsexy assets. Rentals, boring index funds, dividend stocks, small businesses with predictable revenue. They don't need fireworks, they need certainty. When cash flow is stable, everything else becomes optional. Risks, experiments, expansions, even failures. Meanwhile, most people chase lottery-style outcomes. Crypto moonshots, viral businesses, ultra-risky trades. They want the dramatic story, not the durable result. But here's the irony that most never understand. Boring money becomes big money. It compounds, it stacks, it stabilizes your life so you can finally pursue things that actually matter. Rich people don't brag about their cash flow. They just quietly let it buy them time, freedom, and opportunities everyone else is too stressed to even notice. Fact 9. The network multiplier. Wealthy people don't meet people. They build ecosystems. Most people network like they're collecting Pokemon cards, random, desperate, and mostly useless. Wealthy people? They build ecosystems. They don't just shake hands. They connect people who create value for each other, which in turn creates value for them. It's a feedback loop, not a contact list. The average person wants connections. Wealthy people want alignment. Their secret isn't charisma, it's relevance. They know that when you become the person who solves problems, introduces the right people, and thinks long-term, opportunities stop being things you chase and start being things that chase you. That's why the rich keep their circles small but intentional. They don't waste time around complainers, drama addicts, or people who think life is unfair. They surround themselves with builders, because when you share a room with momentum, you either rise with it or get pushed out. A strong network doesn't add wealth, it multiplies it. Fact 10. The leverage mindset. Wealthy people refuse to trade. Time for money. Here's a mental shift that separates wealthy thinkers from everyone else. They absolutely reject the idea that their income should depend on their hours. They see time as the most fragile asset and money as the most replaceable one. So they invert the equation. Most people do more work to make more money. Wealthy people build more leverage to make more money. Leverage can be technology, people systems, capital distribution, intellectual property. The poor ask, how much does this job pay? The wealthy ask, how many times can this work pay me? This is why they love assets that scale. Books, software, equity, media, automated businesses. One action, infinite payouts. If you feel like you're drowning in work, it's not because you're lazy. It's because you're using the wrong tool set. Leverage isn't greed, it's engineering freedom. Fact 11. The future first lens. Wealthy people make decisions based on who they're becoming, not who they are. Most people make money choices based on their current identity. They buy, invest, or avoid risk because it feels right for who they are today. Wealthy people do the opposite. Every financial decision is made with their future self in mind. They ask, will this move make me more capable tomorrow than I am today? That's why they invest in skills before luxuries, ownership before lifestyle, knowledge before entertainment. They're not frugal. They're strategic. Every dollar has a job, and that job is to shape the next version of them. Meanwhile, the average person sabotages themselves by trying to look successful before they actually are. New car, new phone, new status symbols, all engineered to impress people who aren't even paying attention. Wealthy people don't invest to feel rich. They invest to become the kind of person who doesn't need to feel rich. That identity shift is where real acceleration begins. Fact 12. The downside protection rule. Wealthy people survive. First, grow second. Here's a brutally simple truth. Rich people stay rich because they're obsessed with limiting downside. They know growth is optional, but survival is mandatory. And nothing destroys wealth faster than one catastrophic mistake. Most people take risks hoping everything goes right. The wealthy take risks assuming something will go wrong. They diversify not because it's trendy, but because they understand fragility. They keep cash reserves not out of fear, but out of respect for randomness. They protect their downside so relentlessly that even their failures don't kill them. They just slow them down. That's the difference. The average person invests emotionally. The wealthy invest structurally. One bad trade, one bad business decision, one moment of ego, and most people crumble. Wealthy people design systems where even if 70% of things break, the remaining 30% is enough to win long term. The rich aren't lucky. They're unbreakable by design. Fact 13. The quiet seasons. Wealthy people understand that progress happens long before results. Do most people quit because they mistake silence for failure? If something doesn't explode instantly, they assume it's broken. Wealthy people think in seasons, not moments. They know every meaningful return begins with an unglamorous period where nothing seems to work. The build phase, the planting season, the invisible grind. The average person wants feedback. Wealthy people want trajectory. When nothing is happening, they don't panic. They prepare. They refine systems, gather information, test assumptions, optimize processes. They're patient with outcomes, but aggressive with effort. It's a paradox most people never master. This is why the rich become suddenly successful, because nobody notices the years they spent cultivating the soil, only the moment the field finally blooms. If you can learn to stay consistent through the seasons where nobody claps for you, your wealth curve stops being linear and starts being exponential. Invisible work always shows up, just not when you want it to. Fact 14. The optionality. Principle: wealthy people never lock themselves into one path. The biggest advantage rich thinkers have isn't money, it's options. They hate being trapped, boxed in, or forced into a single route. So they build their lives around choices, not obligations. The average person maximizes comfort. Wealthy people maximize optionality. They keep their expenses low so they can move fast. They build diverse skills so they can adapt quickly. They maintain strong networks so they always have a bridge to somewhere better. They invest in multiple asset classes so no single failure can bury them. The wealthy understand a simple formula. More options equals more power, fewer options equals more stress. They treat flexibility like a currency just as valuable as cash. Most people trap themselves with lifestyle inflation, bad debt, and commitments they can't sustain. Wealthy people structure their world so they can pivot at any moment without losing momentum. Freedom isn't a destination, it's architecture. Fact 15. The execution gap. Wealthy people do the boring stuff everyone else only talks about. Here's the real separation, and it's embarrassingly simple. Wealthy people execute, while everyone else intends. That's it. Not inspiration, not talent, not manifesting. Just doing the unexciting things consistently while others are still discussing step one. Most people love strategy. They love planning, researching, watching videos about success, imagining the future. It feels productive, but it's not. Wealthy people know that progress doesn't come from information. It comes from implementation. They don't wait for perfect timing. They don't overthink. They don't obsess over getting it right on the first try. They move, adjust, refine, repeat. Execution is a momentum engine. The more you do, the easier doing becomes. This is why the rich seem unfairly far ahead. They compounded actions while everyone else compounded excuses. The wealthy don't ask, "What if it fails?" They ask, "What happens if I don't start?" The gap between knowing and doing is where almost all potential dies. Fact 16. The learning loop. Wealthy people reinvent their knowledge before life forces them to. Here's the difference no one talks about. Wealthy people update their knowledge the way others update their phones. Constantly, silently, automatically. They never rely on what worked 5 years ago because they know the world moves fast and the cost of ignorance compounds even faster. Most people cling to old strategies like comfort blankets. Wealthy people treat outdated beliefs like expired software. Delete and upgrade. They read obsessively. They study patterns. They pay attention to emerging tech, shifting markets, demographic waves, and new skill sets. They don't try to predict the future. They prepare for it by staying mentally adaptable. This is why they rarely get blindsided. And even when they do, they adjust faster than everyone else. It's not that the rich are smarter, it's that they refuse to run 2025 problems with a 2012 mindset. Knowledge doesn't age gracefully. It expires. The wealthy act before the expiration date hits. Fact 17. The emotional immunity. Wealthy people don't let criticism or praise control their direction. Most people are steered by emotions they don't even notice. A bit of praise speeds them up. A bit of criticism shuts them down. Wealthy people? They run on internal conviction, not external validation. They aren't rude. They're unshakably focused. If someone mocks their early ideas, they don't fold. If someone praises their success, they don't get complacent. Their direction is set by logic, not applause. The secret isn't arrogance, it's insulation. They've learned that letting others dictate your emotional thermostat is the fastest way to stay average. So they build internal confidence through data, experience, and execution, not opinions. While the average person hesitates out of fear of judgment, wealthy people move with the quiet certainty of someone who knows momentum matters more than approval. They don't chase validation, they chase outcomes, and outcomes always win. Fact 18. The long game identity. Wealthy people become the person success requires before success arrives. Here's the deepest truth. Wealthy people don't wait for results to justify changing. They change first. They build the habits, discipline, mindset, routines, and standards of someone far more successful, long before their bank account catches up. Most people want proof before transformation. Wealthy people transform before proof. They act like investors before they have investments. They act like leaders before anyone follows them. They act like creators before anyone watches their work. Identity is the real engine of wealth. Money just follows the person you become. This is why the rich accelerate while others stagnate. They live in the future version of themselves and let the present slowly adjust. When you upgrade the operator, the system changes automatically. So now you know the real game. Wealth isn't a strategy, it's a personality upgrade. Which of these habits are you actually willing to adopt? And which ones are you still making excuses for?